Officially the Sultanate of Oman, an Arab country in the southeastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, holding a strategically important position at the mouth of the Arabian Gulf, bordered by the United Arab Emirates to the northwest, Saudi Arabia to the west, and Yemen to the southwest, has been an important British colony for long decades. The first occasion that the British were required to maintain the regime in Oman was after the death of Sultan Faisal bin Turki in 1913, with no clear line of succession in Arab families and electing a new leader. Britain provided Oman's Sultan Saeed bin Tamar, who has welcomed them with all political and military support he required to prevent his regime from being overthrown in return of crude oil that was sent to Britain. Major Arab tribes in Oman has resisted British colonialism for a couple of years, noticing that Britain have suffered from some big losses due to the soldiers and Bedouin unequal knowledge of the desert. The British was also called upon to prevent Saudi Arabia King Ibn Saud from exerting too much influence and power in the Omani realms, as being the principal financial backers of Ibn Saud. The British could make sure that he did not get too carried away with his successes in Arabia and tried to take control of large areas of Oman, especially after he swept victoriously through the remains of the Ottoman Empire represented in Abdulaziz al-Rashid, who Ibn Saud killed after at the end of the Great War in 1906. However, borders in the desert were difficult to police and agree upon, a fact that would come back to haunt the British and the Omani leaders when oil raised the political stakes in the region in the 1950s. But after the sudden death of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia founder Ibn Saud on the 9th of November 1953, the Saudis and the tribe's danger on Oman has disappeared. But the British presence in the Sultanate of Oman was still important because of Oman being a primarily commercial staging post between Europe and the Indian subcontinent, strengthening the British control over islands located in the Indian Ocean. Oman was also at the center of a dynamic regional trading hub that connected India, the Middle East and East Africa. Noticing that British Indian Navy would regularly call on the ports of Oman on their way to and from Europe or as part of anti-piracy, British troops had a major role in suppressing the Dhofar rebellion that launched in the province of Dhofar against the Sultanate of Muscat and Oman, but had a Soviet and Egyptian support, ending with the defeat of the rebels and their supporters. But the state of Oman had to be radically reformed and modernized to cope with the campaign. The most important position taken by the British government in Oman was the removal and the exile of Oman's dictator and Britain's former ally Sultan Said bin Timur on the 23rd of July 1970. After centuries of tyranny and oppression the Omanis experienced under his regime that was supported by Great Britain. Britain also announced Qaboos bin Saeed, the eldest son of the overthrown ruler, as a new leader of Oman on July 23, 1970, after he was placed under house arrest for a period of 4 years by his father, leading him to an alliance with the British General Consul in Oman, Colonial Edward Lennon, to eliminate his father, who died in his exile located in London after only 2 years of his overthrow, authorizing Oman to begin an era of prosperity and progress and wealth, transforming the Sultanate to a modern state of systems and institutions under the wise rule of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos bin Saeed, who dedicated his life serving his country and people, working hard to end British colonial rule to Oman until Britain formally withdrew from Oman by the year 1971. However, the strong and technically informal relationship that Britain held with Oman meant that the abandonment was not as sudden or as precipitate as it was with the other Gulf countries. This is perhaps best illustrated by the extent that they helped establish Sultan Qaboos as the leader of the country.